Hey guys, Lost here, and today I am playing Rome 2 Total War. I am playing a massive siege battle against two armies of Carthage. In total, there's about 5,000 troops on either side, so it is definitely going to be quite the battle I'll be playing. I gave a lot of the Carthage troops a lot of higher end, much higher TR troops, just because the troops I'm using are a little bit overpowered. I'm using the Gondor units, or the Lord of the Rings Gondor units pack, which is a pretty sweet mod that is up on the Steam Workshop right now. On my side, I am fielding about 10 units of Gondor archers, as well as swordsmen, spearmen, citadel guard, and just a few other variations of, the Gondor units from the Lord of the Rings universe. You will get to see all of these units in battle throughout it. This is a very long siege that I had to fight. Yes, they are a little bit overpowered, but what can you expect when you're essentially playing with medieval era soldiers, as well as, the weapons that they use and the armor that they use? Even though it is fiction, it does come from a medieval era kind of time period, and it would obviously stack up higher if you are playing against ancient Roman era soldiers and armies. So the battle is well underway already. I gave at least one of the armies some siege equipment. I actually forgot to give the second army of Carthage siege equipment. So they are all full of elephants, as well as fairly high level ground troops. I gave the one army about 7 siege towers and about 4 sets of onagers, and they are laying into the sides of my little settlement that I have here. You will see here as the elephants, and I gave them a lot of elephants, when they charged up, they're going to get taken out pretty quickly by my archers. The archers in the Gondor units are extreme, in my opinion, probably the most overpowered. They do a lot of damage, and that's kind of why I didn't give me more troops, just because the archers do quite a bit already and will take out a lot of them. So they are trying to break down my walls. I don't want my archers to get hit too bad. However, I'm going to keep them up there so that they will take out some more of the other side's invading army. Most of the second army without siege equipment is rushing up there pretty quick, kind of taking all of the arrows and basically making arrow fodder out of themselves. The one thing I will say about the Gondor archers is that they don't have a super large amount of ammo. They do some great work when it comes to just absolutely mowing them down, but their ammo supply is not anything super crazy, so that is something you will have to worry about. I will have to worry about at some point. So I hid most of my Gondor swordsmen right back in the woods, and here I forgot to actually run them up, so they're starting to come over my walls, and I'm going to send some Gondor swordsmen, which will hold the line for a good while as I kind of set up some more defenses and make sure that they don't just come storming right into the settlement instantly in the early rounds of the game. I'm just going to say that this battle took about 50 minutes, so I won't probably be showing all of it, because there are some times where you're just kind of sitting and watching two sides just kind of clash together for longer periods of time, and it's not super exciting, so I will probably fast forward through that at some point. But here we go. I'm putting down my Gondor archers, and you'll get to see a little bit on how deadly they are. They do take out a lot of them in just one go. It looks pretty sick, I'm not going to lie. For at least the first about 15 minutes or so, you will see that this battle is absolutely intense. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on as I'm trying to rush to contain all of these guys that are rushing into my settlement. You just saw some pikemen that I have kind of as a secondary wall. They are very effective, like I said, as most of the tall pikemen are in Rome. So that's, hopefully, I didn't want them to get to that point, but they will eventually break through most of my lines, and they will hit those spearmen, so you'll get to see them later on in the video. So the Gondor swordsmen, I am kind of situating out to put them in good defenses, and now I'm going to bring up the archers to start laying fire into this kind of blob of Carthaginians that are coming in, and they will do a good amount of damage, but they won't take out all of them, unfortunately. Here comes in the fireballs, which I don't know if they're necessarily hurting me as much as it's hurting the enemy, because it's usually hitting them first before it rolls into my side. So I'm just shifting back. I'm shifting some archers higher up into the woods right now, and they will lay fire into those elephants that are trying to break through my my Gondor swordsmen. On the left side, I've actually played this same mission a few times, kind of with different variations. First I played it with Gull, but on the left side they're going to hold strong for a good while. Now they're starting to bring up their cavalry. I'm going to take a little overview to see what's going on. Their fireballs are still raining, and they'll probably break down a few more of my walls here. That first line right by the door, you will see it'll hold there for a good little while. They're going to stay there for quite some time, and the left flank will also hold there too. So I will contain this little instant rush of the second army pretty quick. There goes my walls, and they're actually hurting their troops quite a bit with those fireballs they're raining. And you'd think they'd figure that out, that collateral damage is probably not the best thing. So you can see here really how bloody it is and how much work my Gondor swordsmen are doing. They are not invincible. As you can see, I've already been losing some men. Here I'm setting up my archers to get some better fire to help contain the explosion up front. As I'm doing this, you'll see that the first army, I just call it the first army because it's the closest, with all the siege works and all the equipment and all that, they're going to stay back there and let the other army kind of take all of the frontal brunt of the assault, and they'll eventually start pouring over the walls, but that'll be a little bit. Heck, I just took a fire arrow, you know, no big deal. They are massing troops in the front. My Gondor swordsmen are holding firm. I've got some more guys in the back that I'm going to rush up there to push them back, but it's still gonna be kind of a stalemate to some extent for a little bit. Oh, that fireball just drilled a hole into him. When it gets a little more, when it gets a little slower, I will adjust it and kind of fast forward. I'm just checking my defenses back here, making sure everything's all lined up. My horses are right there, as well as my general. You'll see later on. This left flank is holding fairly firm. I know I'd mentioned before that the left flank I'd played before. I'm starting to lose some frames. Had tended to break down, but it's going to stay firm for a good little while. Here we go. I'm setting them up because I don't want them to die. And you can see the archers just tearing apart the few guys left in that unit. So the other army will be advancing here. That's why I started to lose frames. So I just advanced forward about a minute just to kind of keep things rolling. The other army is advancing. They're bringing in all of their siege works, and I'm actually I'm concentrating my fire on different sections now because I will have to be ready when the rest of those troops get there. So I'm actually going to fast forward one more time until the siege works get here. Otherwise, it's just kind of me shifting some stuff around. Not super exciting. So just taking a quick look right down here up front, I managed to pause it just at the right time as a wave of arrows crashed into the lines of battle when some horses charged. It kind of reminded me of one of those old, wartime oil paintings. There's, just kind of everything going on. A horse dying, there's some guys clashing. There's people strangling each other. There's like a woman crying in the battlefield for some reason. I don't know, it just reminded me of some of those super epic kind of cinematic oil paintings that were, painted about old time battles. I thought it was pretty cool. So, moving on. So the first siege works are starting to crash right down on the walls as they are depositing a lot of soldiers onto my archers. I actually, kept my archers on the wall over there instead of pushing up some other melee troops. I'm sending up the archers that are out of ammo. They're all heavily equipped archers, by the way, so they do act pretty well as ground troops. They're not just lightly armored that'll get washed off the side of the battlefield quickly. They're starting to creep through the ends. The soldiers over on the right side can't quite contain it. And now here come, four ladders that are going to really swamp this left flank. And they're going to hold out for a while, but they're not going to be able to hold off all of the flanking that this portion of the army is trying to do. Here they come rushing over the ramparts. Even though the siege works are starting to pile up on the walls, there's still a good portion of the original army still waiting back, and they'll end up actually charging through the massive holes that they brought. I don't know why they brought their onagers right up front. I mean, they could have easily hit me from back there. They're not really close-range weapons, but I mean, to each their own. Here I brought up, as you can see, my archers are starting to charge up there. They're out of ammo because, like I said, they do run out of ammo quickly. So they're going to substitute as some swordsmen to help combat some of the enemy and try to contain that right flank for a little while longer. So I jumped ahead about 2 minutes, and the rest of the forces out there are now flooding the walls. The right flank is getting piled up. The left flank is actually has been completely taken out. They're kind of isolated back there and can't hold it, so I'm starting to get flanked through the center. I'm putting up the rest of the few forces I have to defend all of the just the swamps of soldiers that are running over, including all of the elephants that will be breaking through. Oh, they're sending some of their swordsmen to combat my Gondorian swordsmen. Gondorian? Is that an actual word? Is that an actual thing, or is it just Gondor swordsman? I know it says Gondor swordsman, whatever. Gondor swordsmen, they're sitting right there. I believe they'll be able to hold off, but it will obviously sustain some casualties there. In the back, my phalanx and my long, tall spearmen are just chilling back there, kind of minding their own business as other soldiers are starting to die off. Over there on the left flank, it has completely broken down. There's nobody left, and now they come flooding around. So we will be blowing over to the next wave of defenses pretty soon here. The Gondor soldiers do have a fairly high attack and defense. That's why they don't usually go down a lot, and they are kind of overpowered. But as you can see, they're getting overwhelmed just as you might expect somebody to. There's not a whole lot of soldiers guarding the front. The only real defense, or the defending, that I am doing up front is due to the onagers that are kind of breaking up the advancement. Not that it really matters a whole bunch, because they're not going to last very long as those elephants the war elephants come charging up to take out, you know, barely a handful of soldiers that are still managing to hold the front line. Some of their foot soldiers are making their way around and isolating the few guys I have left up front. Here I'll be moving the cavalry to get into position to charge them. I won't send them up just yet. Their cavalry is, I wouldn't call them overpowered. They do a good job, but they will go down, you know, against spearmen just like anybody else. I just moved up my archers to help rebuff that center because, as I said, they do act as foot soldiers because they're all heavy. Actually, all of the troops are all heavy troops. There aren't any really lightly armored Gondor soldiers that come with the mod, but that's okay. A little side note about the mod, the developer, from what I've read on Steam, will be planning to implement some more factions. Right now, obviously, the only faction is Gondor in Rome, but he plans on adding a few more, you know, Middle Eastern things. I don't know the specifics. I just am telling you what I read on Steam. I'll put a link to the mod below so you can check it out yourself. So not only now are they advancing up the front and they're hitting up their Phoenician horses, I think that's what they said, I didn't really take a look. They're also, now they're breaking up to my second wave of defenses. I'm accessing my archers and letting them fire and hopefully take off some of the momentum that they're starting to gain. But like I was saying, they are charging up the walls on those siege works over there, and here you can see the Sacred Warrior Brothers, a fairly advanced unit attacking my spearmen. And now the elephants are starting to make my way up there, and things are looking not too fantastic on the battlefield. Just taking a look over here at the right flank. They're not going to hold much longer, but they're going to do the best they can. The guards of Osgoloth, which is what they're called, are taking out those elephants quickly, as you can see. And I'm preparing my Gondor archers, who have gotten a lot of kills, so they've actually ranked up quite a bit in the round itself. Back here, I have some Gondor spearmen, just some basic Gondor spearmen that are a good unit, just like the rest of them. They're guarding the flank as the horses start to charge around. At this point, I'm kind of just waiting for them to break up to my second line of defenses. I am kind of letting the first guys that were up there just slowly die off, and as you can see now, they're starting to charge up. So I will be changing some stuff up here so that I can be prepared for when they do hit. Here is one point that it'll start to get a little longer. You know, the spearmen, the Osgoloth spearmen will be holding there for a good while. I think I'm saying that right. I don't really take a whole long look at the names. A lot of them are usually the Sacred Band, or a lot of the enemy soldiers are the Sacred Band, the Sacred Warriors. You know, really high TR stuff, because I did face them against Gaul, or the Gondor soldiers, the Gondor faction, against Gaul, and it didn't quite work out too well for them. I did a really good job, fighting them back, so I decided to up it to hopefully a more civilized society in hopes to make things a little more difficult. And it does go down to the wire here, but we'll talk about that later. In the back, I have some Citadel Guard, which are guarding the rear from some Phoenician heavy horses, and my archers will be laying into them and will take out a good portion of them. However, they will not stop them from attacking that, but they will hold the rear just fine. Up front, my Osgoloth, my phalanx formation will hold quite a while as the enemy army just kind of bunches up around the corner. You know, like when an enemy army is running away, or it's kind of going around a turn like it's all bunched up. Well, that's kind of happening to all of the armies. So here we're going to take a little cinematic view to kind of get a look at what they look like. They look really good. I really do enjoy this. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, just to let you guys know. I'm going to take a screenshot, maybe use it as a thumbnail or something. But yeah, this will be one of the points where it does kind of cram up, and will take a little bit for them to break through, so I'll probably end up skipping through a portion of this at some point, because you don't need to see them just sitting here and wasting away at it. Before I do that, you'll notice that they are starting to kind of send some guys to the rear. It won't all be super successful, but they are trying to get around. If there's anything that I've learned throughout my experience playing Total War, especially with the original Rome 1 Total War, when you're starting to gain some momentum, don't just throw all of your soldiers right down the middle in an attempt to break through, because I've lost a lot of battles when that did not work. And here I'm going to change my Citadel Guard up to make sure they're in a proper formation for when those horses come back. But they will fend them off just fine, and it won't be a big deal. So here, after a while, it is starting to break down. I'm just going to send them in to just do the... I mean, I could have left them in spear formation, but at this point, I'm losing so many. They wouldn't last for much longer anyway. Let's take a look down here. They're just pounding away at it. And I am losing men. It's still at 50-50 in terms of the battle. You'll see at the end, it'll be very close, but, you know, you'll see. I won't spoil anything. These Gondor archers are out of ammo, and they're having to face a lone elf and charging there, but I'm going to send them in because to hopefully contain that. I'm going to let the archers fire now, and they will do a good job for the most part. I mean, they won't do all of the job. They will chip away at this blob of enemy soldiers that are marching right up the center of my fort. My guys up front are starting to waver, so I will be starting to go to my last leg of defenses here. I have my cavalry still waiting, which will do a little bit of work trying to contain them here as I start to send them forward. I'm not going to send them in wedge. That would be stupid. My general over there is the Lord of Angbor, if I'm saying that correctly. He is the Fearless, you know, it's part of his name. In the mod, you also get Faramir as a general, and one other that I haven't used. If you want to download, it's a small, not a super big download. You can take a look and see for yourself. Nothing super crazy. I'm going to send my horses now up to help contain the mess that is kind of forming. My archers are also raining down fire, which will do some work as well. I've got some scattered forces off here to the left, but it's not going to do anything super crazy. I'm going to send my general up here. Probably not the best decision. As you can see, they're starting to come around to the rear. My Citadel Guard are holding firm, and you know there's nothing that's really going to break through them, at least. The Sacred Warrior Brothers are, like most of the other guys, like I've said, are, you know, pretty strong units, but my guys are doing just fine there. I'm going to speed things up as the horses and the cavalry start to engage. I'm going to skip ahead here just because it's another kind of lengthy engagement, and you'll see the turnout. It'll be just fine. Just keep in mind, I'm only skipping about a minute ahead. That's really all the difference it makes in battle, but I don't want to keep you guys bored. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to entertain. So now I've got some Gondor archers who are also out of ammo that I'm going to throw up there. The archers in back are engaging. I'm going to adjust them, hopefully get them firing where they need to be. Off to my left here, off to my left flank, there is some Gondor archers engaged in the woods. They won't last much longer. And the rest of the guys that are kind of holding the center, same story. My cavalry is dying out. There goes my general. Not looking too hot, but I do have some pretty sturdy defenses left, so I'm not losing hope completely. My Gondor cavalry will be overwhelmed here in just a few moments, but they're going to do their best to contain the Carthaginian forces as they push on. Continuously, my arrows... Continuously? Is that a thing? Well, it's a thing now. The arrows will rain down and probably do a little bit of collateral damage to my troops, but they will be doing doing some good work on the enemy. And here they're starting to break through. There's not many cavalry left. I'm putting my Gondor spearmen up now, as well as basically my only remaining archer that's not currently being used to fire on them. So that's going to be another little engagement. This battle's been kind of half and half the entire way because I don't have a lot of troops, but since they are so effective and a little bit overpowered, you know, you kind of got to stay optimistic about it because they do a lot, and I'll probably I'll show you how many kills each unit gets at the end just because I think it's pretty cool to see that. And here my Gondor spearmen come charging into the Carthaginians. Here I'm losing a few frames. It'll get better in a second. But my Fountain Guard are going to handle this Sacred Band of Hoplites that are coming at it with basically no casualties. My archers off to the left and right are almost practically out of ammo, so we really are getting to the last legs of this here. Yep, there go my archers finishing off the last of the arrows down to this front where my Gondorian spearmen are doing their best to keep things down. But we're getting almost down to the last man-on-man here. I mean, it's going to be a close battle. Hopefully I'm going to keep them engaged and keep the pressure up long enough to send them back. My Fountain Guard, not the Citadel Guard, my Fountain Guard are finishing off the last of the stragglers that managed to sneak up to the front. And I doubt you want to watch this little last man-on-man fight here. I mean, you probably do, but it's going to take longer than I'd be willing to wait. So I'm going to kind of just scan through the battlefield here. You'll see all the carnage that really took place, all of the dead bodies and elephants on the battlefield from all of my crazy accurate archers. And the onagers that for some reason are pushed up, I don't know why they decided to bring them inside the settlement. No sense to me. And the front alone, it looks like right there, is practically enough for one entire battle, let alone a gigantic siege. Maybe not the giganticest siege you've ever seen, but a big siege. And you'll see all the bodies here. And it was a little worse for my guys up on this little second level with all the elephants. You can see way more of my bodies than the enemy's bodies. My Gondor spearmen are doing pretty good, and I'm going to just kind of kick them into gear, hopefully to finish them off in a timely manner. The rest of those stragglers are now gone, and I was going to send up my spearmen, but I didn't realize that there's actually some soldiers creeping around the backside, which will be held off just fine by the Citadel Guard that I have in the rear. I'm taking a look at my Fountain Guard. I'm going to set them back in line here pretty soon. Here's probably the last little remaining force of the army that is managing to sneak up into my settlement. They won't last too long. They'll eventually hit my spears in the back. See, I'm going to put them back there because I see them advancing, and I don't want them inside. So I'm out of ammo. All of my main force is dead. All I've got is about two or three actual foot units that are unscathed, ready for battle. And I'm starting to send back the front forces as some of the other ones are coming up to reinforce. However, I'll be pushing them off pretty soon. And I'll be finishing this battle as it kind of comes down to the last man-on-man. You know, I was thinking about this Fountain Guard as they're kind of set up in this phalanx position up on this hill. That would be absolutely terrifying to advance up. I mean, let alone, let's say you're on flat ground first of all. When you set them up, you know, you're going to be facing, you know, 2 or 3 spears right at your chest, right at your stomach. But when you're on a hill like this, you've got spears facing all across your body, and you would just get shredded. I can't imagine having to fight, you know, warfare like that back then. Just so brutal, so brutal. So they are starting to leave the front. I have managed to hold them off, the few guards that I had still remaining. And the few stragglers in the back were fended off by my Fountain Guard and my Citadel Guard that was sitting with their spear line right there. So all that's left really is the archers out in the field. And that is probably the closest that I come to losing it when I go out in here, start to engage those archers. I'll fast forward in a second. And it's one of those things where I send all of my guys out since I don't have any cavalry, and I chase down one and I get fired on by another. I chase down the other and I get fired on by, you know, the same one. It's just a mess, and I end up losing a lot more guys out in this field while I'm trying to clean up the scraps. I do end up winning, just barely. You'll see the stats here in a second. It's awesome. This is a great mod if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, or if you're not, I mean, it's still a cool mod. Like I said, and I'm sure you've gotten the hint by now, these units are a little overpowered. You can't use them in the campaign yet. From what I've read, that it will be eventually added. You can use them in the campaign. Links and everything will be in the description. We are getting to the end here. I want to thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Follow us on Twitch. I will see you guys later.